Alan Dershowitz is one of the brightest legal minds in America. Jeffrey Epstein's veteran lawyer. He was the one who drew up a spectacular legal path for Epstein in 2008, only 13 months in custody, and allowed to go out to work every day. Alan Dershowitz is the person who holds the most secrets about Jeffrey Epstein, but chose to remain silent for more than 3 decades. Now at 78, Dershowitz is no longer keeping quiet. He began to speak out about what investigators had been chasing for years. The client list, the alleged center of Epstein's criminal network. Was it real? Who were the names on it? The truth. Alan Dershowitz is known as a law professor at Harvard University, where he taught for more than 50 years. At the age of 28, he became the youngest professor in the history of this school. With his sharp arguments and convincing defense skills, he has participated in many of the most controversial cases in the United States, such as defending O.J. Simpson in the murder case of his wife, which shocked the United States in the 90s, defending Mike Tyson, the boxing star accused of assaulting women, or providing legal support to Donald Trump during his first impeachment. However, the name that has long been associated with controversy is none other than Devil's Advocate. The controversial relationship between Alan Dershowitz and Jeffrey Epstein. In the 1990s, Jeffrey Epstein became famous in the financial world of Wall Street, not only because of his huge fortune, but also because of his hobby of playing with big minds. He regularly donated to prestigious research institutes, universities, and academic foundations. The Washington Post said that Epstein met Alan Dershowitz in 1996 through Lynn Forrester, who later became Lady de Rothschild, a symbol of the British upper class. The meeting was more than a mere handshake. Epstein was impressed by Dershowitz's talent and legal knowledge, while the Harvard professor was also drawn to the financier's intellect and sharp logic. The two became close. Epstein invested in a hedge fund for Dershowitz and funded an academic program at Harvard where Dershowitz taught. It was a typical relationship money with brains fame, with influence. Things began to turn in 2005 when Palm Beach police opened an investigation into Epstein's alleged crimes. Epstein, a high-profile investor, suddenly faced the prospect of criminal prosecution. This is when Dershowitz and Epstein's relationship shifted from academic friends to legal partners. Epstein assembled a legal super team, including Alan Dershowitz, Ken Starr, the former special prosecutor for President Clinton, and Jack Goldberger names, that would strike fear in a courtroom. As his attorney, Dershowitz is said to have drafted and negotiated the terms of the infamous 2008 immunity deal that helped Epstein avoid federal prosecution and get him sentenced to just 13 months in prison with the privilege of working during the day. Notably, the deal also protected all potential co-conspirators from prosecution, a detail that outraged the public and his victims, and which the press dubbed a deal with the devil. If Dershowitz's role as a lawyer was controversial, what happened in 2014 thrust him into the center of the storm. Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's most famous victims, has come forward to allege that Alan Dershowitz sexually assaulted her as part of Epstein's network. The claims were made in a Florida civil court filing and were immediately picked up by the media. Dershowitz responded like a man who refuses to let his reputation be tarnished. He denied the allegations, outright calling them blatant slander, and he countersued Giuffre and her lawyers for defamation. In interviews, articles, and court filings, Dershowitz has repeatedly said he did nothing wrong, that he was the victim of a celebrity baiting scheme. The legal battle lasted nearly 8 years, with both sides trading barbs in the press. Finally, in 2022, they settled out of court. The document stated that neither side admitted wrongdoing and both maintained their positions. With the settlement, Alan Dershowitz seems to have gotten the biggest scandal of his career out of the way. But in the public eye, the incident remains a stain that cannot be washed away. Many wonder, is Dershowitz the real victim? Or is he the lucky one with top-notch legal skills to escape? And why would someone who understands the legal system as well as he does choose to associate with such a scandalous figure? The relationship between Alan Dershowitz and Jeffrey Epstein is one of the most complicated links in the entire web of mystery surrounding this case. Dershowitz may still be a legal icon, but in the public eye, he has remained silent for too long. Until 2025, Alan Dershowitz spoke up and immediately created Alan Dershowitz reveals. For the first time about Jeffrey Epstein's client list. On March 19, 2025, during a live interview with The Sean Spicer Show, Alan Dershowitz made a shocking statement. "I know the names of the individuals. I know why they're being suppressed. I know who's suppressing them." Dershowitz said he had seen documents related to Epstein's client list, a list of his clients or social connections, that has long been rumored to include the names of politicians, businessmen, royals, and celebrities. And he said the names were not hidden by accident, but rather as a result of a deliberate legal strategy to shield them from public view. "But I'm bound by confidentiality from a judge in cases, and I can't disclose what I know." Alan Dershowitz said he was not allowed to reveal any specific names because he was under strict federal legal constraints. Those records were sealed by court order. The names in the victim statements are protected by federal court orders to protect the privacy of victims and those who are suspected but not yet prosecuted. During his work with Epstein, Dershowitz had access to internal documents but was bound by the Attorney-Client Confidentiality Act, one of the inviolable principles of American law. In a commentary in the Wall Street Journal and in response to Reuters on July 20, 2025, he emphasized, "If I had the permission, I would have published the list a long time ago. I support transparency, but I cannot break the law even for the truth." But rather than being reluctant or polite, he expressed his displeasure, expressing his view that the withholding of this information was serving personal or powerful interests, not the interests of justice. "I know that these documents are being withheld to protect certain individuals, and that is wrong." What makes Dershowitz's statement so powerful is not just the content, but also the role he plays. He was at the center of the legal machine that protected Epstein and was also directly accused by Virginia Giuffre and later acquitted. He is arguably one of the very few people who have been both inside and out of it and who understands the inner workings of the structure. Dershowitz indirectly confirmed the list, revealing that the names being redacted could include current and former politicians and global financial figures. In particular, he condemned the fact that some people rely on the title victim to protect their identities, while there is no strict identity verification process. "They may not be victims. They may be perpetrators," he shared. Alan Dershowitz insists he is willing to go public if the court allows it. He says he has nothing to hide and is willing to give up privacy for full transparency. But the biggest question remains: will the client list, once rumored to contain some of the most powerful people on the planet, ever be fully revealed? Or will it remain buried in the shadows, along with Epstein's controversial legacy? Over the years, the phrase client list has become a media and public obsession, like a Pandora's box filled with powerful names from heads of state, billionaires, royalty to Hollywood stars. The FBI has conducted a comprehensive investigation, especially during the prosecution of Ghislaine Maxwell, and after Epstein died in the Justice Department and the FBI investigate the client list, and the results are shocking. In 2025, President Donald Trump, in the context of his re-election campaign, ordered a full reinvestigation of the Epstein case, publicly declaring, "We will tell America the truth about the elite." In February 2025, Pam Bondi, the U.S. Attorney General and close ally of Donald Trump, appeared on Fox News with a shocking statement: "Jeffrey Epstein's client list is on my desk, and we are going to release it. No one is exempt." The announcement immediately made headlines across conservative and MAGA news outlets, and those who believe that global elites have been hiding crimes in the shadows for decades are now hopeful that the truth will come out. President Trump has directly ordered the Justice Department to review all documents related to Epstein. He has even demanded the release of the entire file, a move that breaks all confidentiality rules in federal investigations. By the end of March 2025, the FBI had begun the largest document review in the agency's history, related to a single case. According to Senator Dick Durbin, more than 1,000 FBI agents worked 24/7 shifts at a secret facility in Quantico. They analyzed more than 100,000 electronic documents, deposition transcripts, and archival images from 2005 to 2019. In particular, internal directives required the FBI to prioritize any documents that mentioned Donald Trump, including flights, photos, testimony from witnesses or victims. The investigation became a political maze, not only to expose the elite, but also to clean up or incriminate a former president who was running for re-election. Throughout May and June 2025, the public eagerly awaited the list, which promised to shake the world. But both the DOJ and the FBI remained silent. Several FOIA Freedom of Information Act requests from news organizations such as ABC News and Reuters to release the records were rejected by the Justice Department, citing the following reasons: to protect the safety and identity of victims, and to avoid compromising ongoing investigations. Public opinion began to split. While the MAGA faction demanded expose everything the Democrats said, this was a political propaganda campaign. In early July 2025, an unsigned, unstamped internal memo began circulating within the Justice Department. Just days later, ABC News confirmed the existence of the document. Its conclusions stunned the nation. There was no client list. There was no evidence that Epstein had blackmailed or compiled a client list. There was no basis for further prosecution of any outside figures. Jeffrey Epstein had ended his life. There was no outside interference. The information was reinforced by previously unreleased surveillance video that showed Epstein alone in his cell, and that prison police had noticed nothing unusual at the time of his death. The news immediately shocked the nation. From the belief that the elite would be exposed, the people were faced with a cold conclusion. Everything was over. No one had to pay anymore. Public and government reaction was explosive. Dan Bongino, the FBI's deputy director and former Trump operative, strongly disagreed with the conclusion. Kash Patel, Trump's close security advisor, also demanded starting over. During a tense meeting at the White House on July 9th, Pam Bondi, Dan Bongino, and Patel argued heatedly. Some leaked sources said Bongino threatened to resign. Elon Musk, who has accused the media of covering up the truth about Epstein, wrote on X Twitter, "This is the last straw. It's ridiculous that we believe the FBI is investigating itself." At the same time, Marjorie Taylor Greene, a far-right congresswoman from Georgia, declared that if the FBI did not release the entire dossier, it would be a red line for MAGA. A series of polls by Quinnipiac Reuters, Ipsos, and CNN and SSRS found that MAGA voters' approval of the Trump administration's handling of the Epstein case had plummeted, with only about 17% rating it positively. Conservatives were starting to split. One side believed in the deep state conspiracy. The other was tired of empty promises. Democrats seized the opportunity to introduce a bill to require the full disclosure of Epstein's records. But the Republican-controlled House narrowly rejected it, 211-210. On July 12, 2025, the Department of Justice officially announced that it had no plans to release any more records related to Epstein unless subpoenaed by Congress or decided by the president. According to sources from Business Insider, the DOJ is still holding thousands of sensitive photos, hard drives, and videotapes that cannot be released publicly because they involve unidentified victims. Just 4 days later, on July 16, 2025, Maureen Comey, the prosecutor who had been in charge of investigating Epstein and the daughter of former FBI Director James Comey, was abruptly fired without any specific reason. Many believed it was an internal purge. Not letting the matter end there, Donald Trump ordered Pam Bondi to continue filing a lawsuit requesting the public release of the entire grand jury transcripts, where evidence was collected from Ghislaine Maxwell and other witnesses. And now, when the Justice Department claims there is no client list, it is Alan Dershowitz who is raising a dangerous objection because he may know. What did Alan Dershowitz say about the results of the FBI's Epstein investigation? In a high-profile interview with Fox News on July 18, 2025, Alan Dershowitz stated emphatically Epstein did not have a written or printed list of clients as people seem to think. But I know who was mentioned in the depositions, and I know why those names were withheld. According to him, the so-called client list is not a physical document that Epstein created to record his clients. Instead, it is a series of statements from victims compiled by the FBI, but to date most of them have been sealed or blacked out to protect personal identities or shield powerful people. When the FBI and the Justice Department released a memo in July 2025 concluding that there was no client list and there was insufficient evidence to pursue further charges, Dershowitz immediately pushed back on the Daily Beast. On July 17th, "I disagree with that conclusion. Just because they didn't find a physical list doesn't mean there was no testimony, no victims, and no powerful people involved. He stressed that the most important evidence lies in the transcripts of victim statements and interviews that the FBI conducted but have never been fully released. And if it were made public, it would be as shocking as the Panama Papers. Over the years, especially after the mysterious death of Jeffrey Epstein in 2019, a series of conspiracy theories has mushroomed. However, Alan Dershowitz, who served as Epstein's lawyer during the early stages of the Florida investigation, Alan Dershowitz, who debunks conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein has long been rumored to be a double agent working for Mossad Israel, the CIA, and even an FBI insider. Many rumors have spread that Epstein was tasked with entrapping powerful figures to serve geopolitical purposes. Alan Dershowitz has repeatedly completely rejected this baseless theory. In an interview with the New York Post on July 16, 2025, he stated, "I worked closely with him. I never saw any indication that Epstein was a tool of the intelligence services. This is a smart guy, but he is not an international spy." Not only does Dershowitz deny the intelligence role, he also denounces conspiracy theories as a way to distract the public from real responsibility. Such theories only serve to blind the public. They are a convenient excuse to avoid questioning the responsibility of the judicial and law enforcement systems that knew and failed to act early enough to stop him for nearly 20 years. With the sharp words of a former insider, Dershowitz poured cold water on the idolization of Epstein as a dark agent. For him, Epstein did not need Mossad or CIA to manipulate power. Money and the silence of the elite were enough. As someone close to many U.S. presidents, including Donald Trump, Dershowitz also spoke out to defend Trump from baseless accusations. Also, in an interview with the New York Post on July 16, 2025, Alan affirmed, "I have seen no evidence that Trump has done anything wrong with Epstein. There is no testimony, no photos, no documents from my time working on the case that show Trump had any illegal involvement." However, he did not deny that Trump and Epstein knew each other like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, or Bill Gates, but he said, "Acquaintance does not mean crime." Amidst the rumors, conspiracy theories, Justice Department silence, and thick legal veils, Alan Dershowitz is one of the few people who knows what's going on. He's no longer Epstein's lawyer, no longer representing anyone. And so his voice now takes the form of a conscious witness, one who reveals and is bound. Alan Dershowitz's situation is like that of a treasure trove of information, ready to reveal the truth, but silenced by the very legal process he once represented. It's an ironic paradox. The person who could reveal Epstein's client list is the one who is not allowed to mention any names. He has repeatedly urged the government to release unclassified testimony, especially FBI transcripts of interviews with victims, which might contain the so-called true list. But so far, the Justice Department has remained silent. Throughout his 60-year career, Alan Dershowitz has been known not only as a lawyer for some of America's hottest figures, from O.J. Simpson, Jeffrey Epstein to Donald Trump, but also as a scholar-author and Harvard Law School veteran. Beneath the academic and media aura, Dershowitz's personal life, from his wealth family to his philosophy of life, is full of interesting and contradictory. Alan Dershowitz, the net worth current, life and personal life of a legendary prosecutor. Born on September 1, 1938 in Brooklyn, New York. Alan Dershowitz grew up in an Orthodox Jewish family. His father, Harry Dershowitz, was a pharmacist and a leader of the local Jewish community, while his mother, Claire, was a teacher and homemaker. At the age of 28, Alan Dershowitz became the youngest professor to teach at the prestigious Harvard Law School. Though not a businessman or an investor, Alan Dershowitz has a fortune that would be the envy of anyone in the legal world. Estimates from sites like Celebrity Net Worth and Scintillating Stars put his net worth at between $20 million and $30 million. His main source of income does not come from a single field, but from the combination of 50 years of practicing law, 49 years of teaching at Harvard Law School, and more than 30 books, especially the fees for television appearances and high-level legal advice on major channels such as CNN, Fox News, Newsmax. Not only does Alan Dershowitz earn a respectable income from his legal and academic careers, but he also owns a collection of luxury real estate across the 3 richest coasts in the United States. He owns a mansion in the quiet Edgartown section of Martha's Vineyard, the famed island resort that has been a summer retreat for U.S. presidents from Clinton to Obama to Kennedy. The mansion is estimated to be worth between $5 million and $6 million. This is where he spends most of his summers relaxing, entertaining guests, and, as he puts it, writing to the sound of the waves and the New England breeze. On the Upper West Side near Columbia University, and not far from major television stations, Dershowitz owns a nearly 3,000-square-foot penthouse. Its current market value is estimated at $4 million to $4. $5 million based on the floor prices of neighboring apartments. Unlike the other two properties, which have a classic intellectual style, Dershowitz's Miami Beach home has a modern minimalist design with a private pool and courtyard. Estimated at $2.8 million to $3.2 million, this is where he retreats each winter to escape the northern cold and attend legal conferences held in Miami, Boca Raton, or Palm Beach. The real estate portfolio is worth an estimated $12–14 million, accounting for nearly half of Dershowitz's total net worth. Although he officially retired from Harvard in 2013, Alan Dershowitz remains a visiting editor, researcher, and visiting scholar at many prestigious institutions. He regularly appears on television to comment on legal issues, especially on hot topics such as Trump Roe v. Wade and the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell cases. In addition to his media activities, Dershowitz maintains a classically academic lifestyle. He spends his mornings reading legal documents and writing at night. Even in his 80s, he remains sharp and argumentative. "Retirement for me does not mean stopping the fight for justice," he once said in a lecture at NYU. Despite his successful career, Alan's marriage was troubled. In 1959, he married his first wife, Sue Barlock, a Harvard student. They had 2 sons together, Elon, a film producer, and Jamin Dershowitz, a lawyer who worked for the U.S. Department of Justice. But the marriage did not last. They divorced in 1976, and just 7 years later, Sue ended her life, leaving a huge emotional scar in Alan Dershowitz's life. In 1986, he remarried Carolyn Cohen, a renowned neuroscientist and psychologist. They had a daughter together, Ella Dershowitz, now an actress and writer. The relationship he described as a marriage of reason and healing, as Carolyn helped him find balance after years of court battles and personal loss. Alan Dershowitz is one of the few pundits who can openly criticize both sides, Democrats and Republicans. Although he used to support the Democratic Party, he declared that he would no longer be partisan by 2024 because both are trading law for politics. He opposed Trump's impeachment, but also sharply criticized him. He defended free speech even for extreme views and has defended the right of anti-Israel groups to express themselves. "I don't take sides. I just take sides with the law." From Brooklyn Jewish boy to youngest professor in Harvard history. From O.J. Simpson's lawyer to Jeffrey Epstein's secret keeper. Alan Dershowitz's life has been a complex symphony of power, controversy, and morality. Even at 86, he's not resting. Still arguing, writing, still speaking out. And as he puts it in his memoir, when you stop arguing, when you stop seeking the truth, you start dying. After all, Alan Dershowitz is still a respected lawyer. What do you think about the man who once protected Jeffrey Epstein? Comment your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to receive notifications of new videos on the channel.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast.
What are your thoughts after watching? Share them in the comments, and if the content brought you value, don't forget to like this video and subscribe.